This video we're going to talk about start capacitors. A capacitor that is only used during motor startup to provide initial starting torque is called a start capacitor. They only are used for a short time, and a centrifugal switch or a relay usually drops them out of the circuit. As you can see, the ones I have here, they're round, they're black plastic or fiber. They have a high rating, usually 75 to 600 microfarads. If we look at the one I have here, it's 145 to 174. So the start capacitors have a range of microfarads on there. And they also have a voltage rating on there, and it can be anywhere from 120 volts to 300 volts. This one's 250 volts. So I have my meter set to microfarads so I can check this capacitor. But before I really touch any of these, I'm going to discharge these. So I just take a screwdriver, I just lay them across the terminals. That discharges any stored charge that are in those capacitors. I'm going to take my meter leads, I'm going to put them on the two terminals. The dashes mean that it's checking the capacitor. And I have 132.1 microfarads. So if I check this, the range was 124 to 156, so that would be a good capacitor. One thing to check on these is this paper tab. See how this one's nice and clean, nice and smooth. When these things go, they tend to blow that paper tab out of there. If I see one like that, I'm just going to assume that that's a bad capacitor. I'll still check it, but odds are it's bad. Or if you see one like this, it's very disfigured, odds are that that's a bad capacitor also. So this capacitor is supposed to be 189 to 227. So let's just see if we can get a reading off of that. So I read 31.98, 32 microfarads. That's not anywhere close to that range on there, so that is definitely a bad capacitor, would need to be changed out. If we check this one's supposed to be 108 to 130 microfarads. If I check that with my meter, it's checking the capacitor. And I'm just getting dashes, so that won't get a reading. So that is a bad capacitor. So when we measure these, we want to make sure that we discharge them before we touch them. We want to make sure that it's in the range. Now if you need to replace one of these, you can replace it with one at a higher voltage. This one's 250 volts. We can replace it with the same microfarads at 300 volts. We just can't go lower on our voltage rating.